we've been taught for a long time that, you know, if you do something and you pay your price, and then there's a path to forgiveness, and hopefully we're developing paths to be able to have more restorative processes and to be able to address the root causes of harms and make sure that the needs of everyone are addressed and to create better societies. But right now, you know, we spoke earlier about the fact that the systems that we're living under now, the systems of oppression, the systems of repression, are not broken systems. They're not systems that we need to make to work more smoothly. They're working exactly the way that they were designed to, and in a lot of forms. In a lot of ways, what they were designed to do is to continue to leave a heavy burden and weight, and to capitalize on the bodies of Black and brown and poor folks, and it is a reality in our criminal justice system, and including the fact that, you know, many folks who after they've been incarcerated, after their incarceration, there are severe requirements with a great threat of reincarceration if they don't meet high burdens. And so the folks that we're about to speak to are firsthand able to share with us their experiences in how, having gone through that system and now experiencing the challenges. You know, many folks after they've been convicted of a felony are not allowed to receive different benefits, including public housing, and often, if you're for houseless folks, for folks that are experiencing homelessness, there's requirements to be able to check in, and if you're not checked in, there is that threat of being able of having to be put back into that system. And so Laurie Jo Reynolds, who's one of the folks that was going to join us in as well as the Chicago 400, is an artist and policy advocate whose work challenges the demonization and warehousing and social exclusion of people in the criminal legal system, often long-term efforts that begin at the margins of political viability. And I'm really happy that Laurie Jo Reynolds is also joined by representatives of the Chicago 400. The Chicago 400 are parents and grandparents, veterans, providers, mentors, church members, hard workers, and faithful friends, who are also people with past convictions that require registration and who are experiencing homelessness and therefore have to re-register weekly at Chicago Police Headquarters or receive new felony convictions. And most of the folks in the Chicago 400 are homeless due to housing banishment laws. And the Chicago 400 Alliance are individuals and organizations supporting them in their shared public safety goals to prevent crime, support survivors, and hold people accountable for harm, then let people with past convictions move on with their lives. They're all believers in God, peace, restoration, and in the possibility that their lives will change with the support of community, folks like you. And so I'm really happy to be able to welcome this conversation between Laurie Jo Reynolds and representatives of the Chicago 400, including Terence Chisholm, J.C. Clark, Stephen Diggs, Benjamin Head, Robert East, and Thomas C. Williams. So Laurie, I'll welcome, and I will pass the space on to you, and really appreciative to have you all join us today.
Hi, everyone. I think Terence is going to begin. I appreciate the handoff to me, but I follow the lead of the Chicago 400. So they're going to start and then I'll pick it up. But we don't have everyone on yet. I don't know if Terence, you might just want to start and we'll get everyone.
Thanks, Laurie Jo, and thanks to the host and the organization of this. My name is Terence Chisholm. I'm one of the leaders of the Chicago 400. On the behalf of myself, JC, and others, we would like to say thank you for having us, and we appreciate you taking your time out of your busy schedule to talk to us and for us to talk to y'all, to get y'all information and things that we do in our organization and how our life has been due to registration and house banishment laws. And I could give it to JC and he could give his introduction and I'll come back. Thank you.
Ready?
Yeah, I wish I can't see your eyes too well. I could see John's eyes. There, that's better. A little bit. Yeah, we need to get y'all some light. I should have given you some lamps.
Yeah.
Okay, there, that's perfect. That's good. Just keep your head up.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Ready?
Yep.
Good afternoon, good evening. My name is Joseph Clark, better known as JC, a member of the Chicago 400. I've been a part of the registration process for over 20 years, in and out of prisons for a failure to register, change of address. And my purpose for this video that we're doing is to bring light to the hardship that the banishment laws and having to register weekly. It puts us in a position where we're not able to function and have a complete way of life. Case in point, working through temp agencies, I got landed at a very nice job at the ham factory, and it was peak season. And I was garnishing a great amount of finances, being able to take care of my kids, buying coats, and being able to prepare them for the winter and the Christmas holiday, Thanksgiving, all those things. Everything was going fine. But the requirement with going from temp to permanent, you couldn't miss any time, and that was a great challenge, having to register weekly. But a day came where I could get to registration and register and still make work also. By the time I got to 35th and Michigan, I was 5 minutes late, yet and still they were still registering people, and there were still people sitting waiting to be registered. And Officer Young would not allow me to register. And I explained to him the situation that, I work in a new job, I can't afford to miss, all of those things of that nature. And before that prior incident, I would like to say that we had a pretty cordial relationship. But that particular day, he refused to allow me to register, which incurred that because I wasn't able to register and I wanted to still work, I required a warrant for failure to register. Went to the county jail. I was there for at least a month. I got out and having a year of just straight turmoil, trying to survive, trying to make it, not really having any place to live, doing the trains, doing the bus stops and things of that nature. But through sure determination and willpower, was able to endure that. And with saying all that, it's just to say that we're fighters, and with the help of so many others. And I think I'm thankful for those that hear us and support us. And we're also asking for more support because our voices need to be heard. We need to be taken seriously. I know the laws were enacted to help, but they really haven't helped. They have hindered, and they need to be relooked at and done away with and revised if have to be. With that being said, I am so grateful to be a part of Chicago 400. It is such a enduring position to be in, to fight for yourself and have someone fighting for you and with you. And it's so encouraging. And I'm so thankful to the Chicago 400 Alliance and all the other groups that are taking on this battle and this fight for us. Because if we stand and we continue to stand together, we can accomplish great things. And with that, I'll finish.
My name is John Cameron. I'm a father, a grandfather, and a great-grandfather. I'm part of the Chicago 400. In 1996, I was released from prison. I did my 3 years of parole with no problem. My wife and I lived in an apartment up until 2006, and a daycare center opened up across the street from where we lived. We had lived there for 9 years. I was doing my registration once a year at that time. I had a job, I was working, And I was told I had to move. I couldn't live there anymore. But I was only a few months away from finishing up my 10 years of registration. So they said, just use that address as your mailing address. So I actually had a safe place I could go to. But in 2008, my wife died. And then I had nowhere to go. I had no safe place. I couldn't stay at anywhere. And it was hard. I had to find some place to sleep. I did the trains, I did the buses, and I finally found a place out on the golf course, which is right off of Lakeshore Drive and Irving Park Road. And there I've lived for the last 12 years. And for quite a few years there, the police were really hard. They would come out in all hours of the early morning, like 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, and rouse you awake. They throw you up against the wall. I'd had my face ground into a brick. I had been punched in the kidneys and the lower back. They would take knives and cut my tent up, throw all my bedding out into mud and snow, and dump my backpack out into the snow and mud. And they didn't care. They were just really, really bad. And there I stayed until 2015, and I got attacked by 2 guys trying to steal my stuff, and I fought back. Well, at that time I had a baseball bat and I used it, and I broke one guy's arm. The other guy, I messed up his knee and hit him in the face. And the next thing I know, the police came out and arrested me. And while I was going to court, they charged me with assault, felony assault. And they used my background against me. So I ended up getting 4 years in prison again. Well, because of my background, I couldn't live anywhere because of the banishment laws. And then in 2018, I got out, but just before I got out, they told me I'd have to register. Well, I was off registry. At least that's what I thought. And the way the laws are written here in Illinois, if you commit another felony and do time for it, you have to start re-registering. And that's what happened to me. I had to start re-registering all over again. I was appalled. I was angry. I was really angry because I'd done what I was supposed to do, and I shouldn't have had to do this. And I get my Social Security. I get a small pension from my job. I have money. I'd be able to find a place to live, but there's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to live. Not in Chicago anyway. And then I got involved with the Chicago 400. I met Laurie Jo Reynolds. And at first I wasn't really convinced, but I finally decided, you know what, let me go check this out. And I've been with them ever since. And it's the best thing that's ever happened to me. And thank you for your time.
I could give a brief introduction on myself. I'm Terence. I'm 37 years old. I have 2 boys, ages 13 and 16. Next, we could have Stephen speak, please.
Hello, my name is Stephen Diggs. I'm a member of Chicago 400. I'm also a drug counselor with Above and Beyond Recovery Center, who also has joined the Alliance with Chicago 400. I am a husband. I am a grandfather. I'm a father. I'm a son, and I'm a brother. I am also a registered weekly at the Chicago Police Department. I am asking you guys to support us with social media. You guys support us through Twitter, Facebook, to help get out the message that we need help with our cause in Chicago. We the Chicago 400 and the members of Chicago 400. We are seeking to get a housing banishment as far as 500 feet. We're asking to be reduced to 250 feet. We are also asking that our weekly registration be banished for good, and maybe yearly or quarterly. And I turn it over to somebody else right now. Terence.
Yes, next on the agenda, we would like to talk about the housing abandonment laws. If Thomas and JC could give us.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me? It's Thomas.
Yes, I'm introducing you now. Can you please give us a 2-minute briefing on how it has been to deal with housing abandonment laws and how your life been due to the fact that you've been without housing?
Yes. I'd like to just first say good morning, good afternoon to all the members of the Chicago 400. My name is Brother Thomas C. Williams. I'm a Chicago 400 member for life. It's been rough for the last, I want to say, 30-something years. I've been going through this ordeal, weekly registration, and it hasn't gotten any better. Then I have had a spinal operation on my back, so I can't move like I used to move. I'm just beginning to walk again. But it's a shame that you've been locked up, even if you did or didn't do. And when you come out, you have to re-sign again. For what? I mean, you're making me do a double. You say my guilt. Okay, I served my time. So why am I now still going through these changes? I can't even get an apartment. I have to sleep on the L. Have you ever slept in an abandoned building or on steps when it's cold outside? I have. Have you ever sat on the corner of Chicago streets at the CTA's bus stop just to get you some rest? I have. So I mean, it behooves one to give us the help that's necessary to abolish or cut these laws, especially this weekly registration. It's a hazard, and I can't even get an apartment because it's close to a school or something, and that's a shame, So I mean, I could go into detail about this issue, but I'm just gonna say it like that. Can you please get some help? Can we please abolish these laws? And with that, I'm gonna leave it alone. Peace.
Okay, thank you, Thomas, for that information. It was much needed. And now I will pass it to our leader, Laurie Jo, who's been a major impact on my life and other members of the Chicago 400 throughout the work that she does for us. And I will pass it to her, and she can introduce herself, and she could talk about more of the bills that we are looking to pass and other things that we have going on with the Chicago 400. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Terence. And I'm going to attempt to share the screen, so wish me luck. I have stage fright. Wait, okay. Let's see. Did that work? Do you see it? Yes? Okay. So thanks, everyone. Just to be clear, you're meeting the leaders of the Chicago 400, and my job is to work. It's not my job, but my work, we're all volunteers. It's an all volunteer grassroots campaign. We're all working together to support the Chicago 400. But I'm coordinating the alliance of people who are supporting the Chicago 400. So I'll talk more about that in a second. And these are Chicago 400 members at the Chicago Police Station. And as you've learned, the Chicago 400, the people in Chicago on public conviction registries experiencing homelessness who therefore have to register weekly. And the images that we're showing, that I'm about to show, that people wanted to show, came from the Chicago 400 having a show at the Drawing Center in New York. And here's the fundamental premise of our work, which we've already stated, that our criminal justice policies should prevent victimization, support survivors, and hold people accountable for harm. Then after punishment, let people move on with their lives. And we're focusing on the acute crisis caused by residency restrictions, discredited policies that permanently exclude people from most housing for life. And this is very disproportionately Black men. By barring people from nearly all housing, we force hundreds of Chicagoans into homelessness and keep some 1,400 people in Illinois in prison past their release dates. Why? Because you can't leave prison if you're homeless. And we're forcing this even on people who have homes to go to. Many people have safe and welcome homes, but our laws make their housing options a crime. And as we will explain, these are totally barbaric laws. This is the new Jim Crow. And so I just was going to give you a little background in this to make sure there's no reason in the world you would even consider supporting these laws. So let's start with the public conviction registries. Laws that require, this is people getting kicked out of their housing even when they have homes already, which many of the Chicago 400 have had this happen, and they'll tell you about it. So public conviction registries are laws that require the police to collect personal data and photos from people simply because they have a past criminal conviction and then put all that on the internet. There's an entire police apparatus to collect all this data called registration. People have to follow a confusing maze of reporting requirements and show up at the police station every year, 4 times a year, every time you change anything. Or if you're homeless, 52 times a year, and hand over your data to the police. And you'll get a felony if you don't do this. So it's really important for people to understand public conviction registries as a police project, moving people by the tens of thousands to police stations, and then moving the police by tens of thousands into domestic spaces just to see if you reported your address correctly. So registries require people with past convictions, free people, to be forced into ongoing adversarial, repressive contact with police after punishment is complete, for decades or for life. So please see this as an engine of police abuse and reincarceration, but also a huge expansion of the carceral state. Registries are not part of punishment. This is just added on stuff. Legislators have sold this to the public as a form of public safety, but how could it possibly be? In Illinois, we have 47% of the population with an arrest or a conviction record. And so then we just go on to list, thousands of people on the internet sorted out by convictions. Illinois has conviction registries for violent offenses against youth, murder, meth manufacturing, arson, and of course, everyone knows about the sex offense registry. And Chicago has a gun conviction registry. We have very high rates of people listed and labeled on registries. So 1 in every 212 men in our state is on a registry. And for Black men, that's 1 in every 84 Black men is on the sex offense registry. And that's incredible numbers of people. And the rates of Illinois men on all public conviction registries is 1 in 45 men. For Black men, that's 1 in 42. 1 in 42 Black men in our state is listed and labeled on a public conviction registry and invited to have ongoing adversarial police contact. Obviously, these racial disparities are the end point of many other processes with disproportionate racial outcomes. They're a proxy for race. I don't need to tell this audience, you know, that hyperincarceration followed decades of concentrated economic divestment in segregated communities, and there's, you know, a complete abdication of like any social service, tax base, all wealth going to the suburbs, etc. But it's really important to remember that addressing the many pathways to interpersonal and community violence requires addressing the whole health of the whole community, investing in true well-being and social welfare, ending inequality. Public safety comes from meeting human needs, not taking them away. And one thing is clear: gun violence, sexual violence, domestic violence, robbery, child abuse, substance abuse are not prevented by listing people with past convictions on the internet. True public safety comes from secure housing and jobs, strong ties to family and community, hope for the future, and recognition of worth from others. And all that these policies take away. Sorry? All that these policies take away. Is there a problem with the slides? Oh, sorry. Okay.
So,
Good. So that's why we're gathered here today, and that's why advocates for survivors and many other advocates are finally stepping up to support the Chicago 400 in their organizing efforts to challenge these laws. We all know the life-shattering impact of violence and incarceration, and we're all tired of watching our state waste resources that could be spent on good government. So just some definitions as we go on. We don't have time to talk about public space banishment laws today, but we have them. So let's go on to housing banishment laws. But just note that we do banish our fellow human beings, wonderful, incredible human beings, from public space for life. That's what we do. Okay, and then also from housing. So here's housing banishment. These are laws that bar you from living 500 feet around property lines of schools, playgrounds, daycares, parks, boulevards, etc. for life. When you put a 1.5-block radius around all these things, you're banished from the neighborhood. But when you add up all the neighborhoods, it's a blackout. And not everything is even included in this map because people don't even have access to know everything they're banished from. But if you do live somewhere and one of these places opens up on the next block, if somebody takes out a daycare license 2 blocks away, your home suddenly becomes illegal. So it shouldn't surprise you that 1/5 of people on the registry in Chicago are homeless, or that 80% of those who are homeless in Chicago are Black men. And the Chicago 400, you know, represents everyone who's homeless. That's this incredible group of people. Now, just one more thing about how discredited these laws are. These laws are so discredited that they've been studied over and over, and many states actually said, wow, these don't work, this is stupid, let's not have these laws. So the Minnesota Department of Corrections analyzed every sex offense conviction over 12 years and found exactly 0 cases in which residency restrictions would have even been relevant to new crimes, much less prevented them. And they were testing this with 1-mile restrictions. Other states found the same thing, and I won't get into the details here, but the Kansas Department of Correction proudly announces on their website why they don't have residency restrictions. Most of the states found, wow, if we cause social breakdowns and cause people to be homeless, we're likely going to increase crime and harm, not decrease it. So that is what we all should be fighting for if you live in a state that has these. And the fundamental flaw in all these laws is that the supermajority of arrests or convictions for people with sex offenses, 98% in Minnesota, are people not on registries. And so like this is a well-known New York study that showed 95% of new sex offense arrests are from people not on registries. And that's where we should focus prevention. That's what the Me Too movement tells us. We're talking about people in our ordinary lives. Sex offenses are not reported. And you know, even the arrests are people not on the registry. So we're focusing all our attention on people who've already served their time and are not going to reoffend for the most part. I mean, very low numbers would. And that's one of the many reasons that these degrading, we should not use, you should stop using these degrading and inaccurate state labels, which I won't even say what they are, but I'm sure you know what they are. They imply that people are destined to reoffend when the vast majority of people will not reoffend after a conviction. And that probability drops predictably after time spent free in the community. After 5 years, it plummets for anyone. After 10 years, most people reach the redemption point. The probability of a new sex offense is not significant, and it's no greater than it would be for anyone with any criminal record, or for, say, someone with an elevated risk like a college-age male, who are at just an elevated age risk to offend spontaneously for the first time. So the vast majority of people will not offend, but people would do even better if we were not putting people through a lifelong prison and police maze and forcing them to carry out discredited, sweeping, indiscriminate policies that jam up our police and prison systems. And so, as I said, we have 1,400 people stuck in IDOC past their release dates and 500 people homeless in Chicago. All of them could have homes if we didn't banish people from housing. So it's now critical to hear more from the Chicago 400. Clifford was writing out the laws one day, and he said, we are the ones who carry out the laws. They carry out the laws that we make. And given that these laws are so damaging and harm public safety rather than protect it, I hope you will ask yourself, why are we making anyone carry them out? And how can we help the Chicago 400 now in their courageous organizing? Thank you.
Thank you so much for the information, Laurie Jo. Next on our agenda, we will talk about parenting, how it affects our kids, dealing with housing banishment laws and having to register. So if Robert, if you want, can you briefly explain how it is to have to register and how it is to have your kids with you?
Robert. Can you call her for Robert?
JC, we can't hear you. You're breaking up too much. I think we have to let Terence MC, okay?
That's fine.
It's just that we got to get your audio working better. If Robert's not here, maybe
Laurie Jo. Hello, can you hear me now, Laurie?
we need.
Can you hear me now?
No.
Can you hear me now? Okay, we were waiting for.
Sorry about the interruption. Moving ahead, Robert's not here. Next on the agenda, we could talk about substance abuse. So Stephen, can you give us an introduction on how it is to deal with substance abuse and homelessness? If you're still on, Stephen Diggs.
Yes, I can. Hello again. My name is Stephen Diggs. I am a member of Chicago 400, and I also work in substance abuse and homelessness. So I work at a Above and Beyond Recovery Center, which also is an alliance with the Chicago 400. My take on homelessness, so I work in substance abuse, and people that are homeless and that have to register that we have in our program, it's really difficult because their homelessness sometimes leads to addiction. Addiction is very, very, very prominent in the African American neighborhoods neighborhoods. But where I work at, the addiction and homelessness is it intertwines together because you have nowhere to stay, so therefore you have nothing to do but hang out and get high. I have 4 clients that I work with that register weekly, and they're homeless just like I am, and they can't seem to beat the addiction part of their life because of their homelessness. They can't get jobs because they have to register and take time. So they have to register, and then they homeless. And if they're panhandling, they got to go. They buy drugs to go stay with some other people or stay at somebody's house for a night for $10, whatever. For us, I ask that you help support us with social media and Twitter and Facebook so that we can help get the message out that we need to lift the housing banishment and the restriction for us registering weekly. If anybody wants to visit my job or check us out on the website, it's aboveandbeyond.com. And we have several different things that we do there to help the homelessness and the people that are suffering with drug addictions. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Very quickly, we have a video we want to show you. It's like a 10-second video, and I will have my other colleague, Benjamin. He could close it out, and he could discuss how it is to lose jobs due to weekly registration. So, Laurie Jo, if you have that video ready, we can show that video real quick. Thank you.
Thanks. I think the wonderful folks are going to play the bullpen video, and you can just start at the beginning and then take the noise down. We just wanted to give you all, the Chicago 400 folks recorded this when of their time in the bullpen. I don't see it, the video personally. Do y'all see it? I think you can turn the sound off now. Do you all want to comment on what this is while the sound's down?
Basically, I could just put it in words. That was the headquarters we was at on 35th, where we was in a small little room. As you can see, it's about 15 to 20 people stuck in one room with no space, no heat, no bathroom. We have to wait till they call our name to go inside the other office to sign our name on a piece of paper. What else I could just say about that? Before we even get to the bullpen, as you saw the other picture where we lined up to go inside the bullpen, basically it felt like we was in jail all over again. Being in that small, cooped up room, it was just unuseful, if I could put it in words. And now we are being asked to go to 5 different locations in the city of Chicago to register with this COVID that we have to face now. And in other words, it was just unuseful. And we just want to change. We just want to change these laws that we have in place, and to move right along after have been talked about what it's like to lose jobs and employment due to the registration.
Okay, thanks, Terrence. Speaking on this, because of registration, when you have job opportunities, they look in your background. It look like you're still just left home. We have guys that have been doing this for years, decades, even, and it stops you from advancing. You want to leave. If you've been incarcerated, you want to come home, get a great job, great opportunity to support your family, and to get, things really moving forward for you. But registration doesn't allow that. And we all need stability, whether have convictions or not. So I had an opportunity, quickly speaking, to make $13 an hour, work 5 days a week. But because I had to think about there's no opportunity out of it, as far as registration goes, I had to give up the opportunity to really move forward and help me, my family, and everyone involved, and really start to trim forward far as second opportunities, in life. And that's what that does for you. And, also I want to speak quickly on, we have a Twitter page also, that for the C400, that you could look up all this information that Laurie has been giving out. And we also, unfortunately, didn't have Robert or Michael today. And these are the type of things the registration does, where have them miss school or they can't live with their kids. And just speaking quickly on them, it's a hard thing when your kids is old enough to understand and you can't explain to them what's going on too. That's what that does. It breaks up the household too. So I just wanted to speak quickly because I know we have a small amount of time. So I wanted to speak on job loss and a couple of members that's not here as parents and those that have been told to move in 30 days. And also, if you want more information, we do have a Twitter page for C400. And thank you. I give it back to Terrence now.
Thanks, Ben. Lastly, but not least, we have a bill that's been passed, and Laurie Joe can talk about that in our bill sponsor, and we could close it out on that. Once again, on behalf of the Chicago 400, we would like to say thank you so much for having us on this webinar. Laurie, if you could briefly talk about the bill.
Well, I went ahead and linked to the volunteer page and the website, and we can talk about the bill in the next room that we're invited to, which I'm sure they'll tell us where to go, because I think we went over and we really appreciate the time. But the exciting thing is the Chicago 400, they found legislators who wanted to support them. It's incredible. And we also have a video of the Chicago 400 talking to legislators on our website if you want to see that, or we can send it to you. But we're happy to talk in the chat. And thanks so much, everyone, for our patience, for your patience, not ours. It's not easy to organize when you're homeless and experiencing all these things. So I just got to hand it to my courageous partners and friends here in Chicago 400.
Thank you all. It is, and I just sort of mention again that if folks would like to speak directly to Laurie Jo and the Chicago 400, they will be in the Zoom lounge. And I hope that really, I just wanted to really drive home like the challenges that they really spoke to. The fact that someone could be arrested, often because of a lack of resources or opportunities within their community, which then disrupts the family with the lack of a potential, breadwinner or childcare provider. Then once they've actually done their time, are forced to experience houselessness because they're excluded from living in a large percentage of the city. That map that Laurie Jo shared is just overwhelming, and how much of the city they're excluded from. And Laurie Jo shared that map was actually underrepresentative. And then the idea that it also makes them harder to contribute because now they're not able to then go and maybe live in the home with their families if their families live in one of those in the many restricted areas, and also to provide childcare or whatever other support they might be able to provide to their families to create a better opportunity to maybe find housing in an area that is not in one of the restricted zones. And then further, if in any ability that they might have to find employment is made more difficult because of the requirement to check in every single week or face long-term reincarceration. And the idea that, you know, the alternative, not having employment, may be either reoffending or being violated for not making an appointment. So the challenge is just overwhelming. The barriers that are kept from them to be able to succeed after having, you know, paid their debt to society, if you will, is super alarming. And so please, I encourage folks to continue the conversation with the Chicago 400, as well as to you know, explore and the ways that you can continue to support them, and find out also, you know, if you're not in Chicago, also find out there are probably many people in your own community that are facing or experiencing very similar circumstances, and explore ways that maybe there's resources that you can gain from the Chicago 400 that you can help to implement in your own community. So I'm indebted to them for really sharing it and shining a light on that conversation.